This is Media Sales Mastery, the podcast for media sales professionals. In each episode, we bring you information, insights, and ideas from some of the industry's top thought leaders. Connect with us to help pick the topic and guide the show.
This is Media Sales Mastery, the podcast for media sales professionals. I'm your host, Jamie Wood. The topic today is going to be a solo episode. It's all about sales team adoption. Two reasons I'm doing this. One, because I'm actually about to head over to Abu Dhabi and Dubai for the next 3 weeks to run a revenue program there with the Arabian Radio Network. So I wanted to commit to keeping this fortnightly upload schedule. And this was just one that I thought would be a good topic to cover to kind of bridge that gap before I'm back home and can record some more interview style ones. Second reason why I thought this was worthwhile recording is because this seems to be something that comes up quite a bit when I'm talking to sales leaders around the world, when I'm talking to even new sales leaders in particular. It's this idea of how do you get your sales team, how do you get your salespeople to actually embrace a new way of working, a new process, a new policy, or selling a new product, right? Sales team adoption basically means how do you, through a series of deliberate and intentional acts, how do you get your sales team to embrace a new and different way of doing things? It's partially change management, but a lot of it also has to do with this idea of how do you actually ensure that your sales team are delivering on what it is that the business needs them to deliver on in a way where it doesn't feel like you have to do it through just pure brute force. The days of, just a dictatorial style leadership are well behind us. It's very much around kind of getting that buy-in. I always talk about the idea of the bulldoze versus the buy-in. So this is around that buy-in approach. How do you, as a new sales leader, or as an established sales leader, how do you increase sales team adoption of the things you need them to adopt? And let's jump into the main topic right now and just dive in.
Media Sales Mastery.
Sales team adoption. Let's think about this practically. What does that mean? What do you need to do? Maybe you need to get your team to increase their market contact. Maybe they're averaging 4 meetings a week with customers and you need them to double that to 8 per week. What about if there's a piece of research your company's just spent a bunch of money on and there's a mandate from leadership that your sales team go and blitz the entire market and take that out and present that to all of their customers, but maybe the sales team don't particularly believe in it or don't buy into it philosophically? What about if there's a new system being implemented? Maybe there's a new way of booking, maybe there's a new way of instructing material, maybe there's a new process that's being embedded into the business and you need your sales team to really quickly lean into it, pick it up and learn it. What about if it's a rule, that you as a new leader are maybe implementing into an established team? One that comes to mind, in the last 3 teams I've come into as a new sales director, I've probably gotten more pushback on this non-negotiable policy than anything else. Is I had a rule that any proposal over $20,000, so a campaign with more than a $20,000 budget, every proposal had to be sent to either myself or to a delegate to effectively cross-check and approve that to be taken out to market 2 hours before it was due to be presented. So you can imagine somebody who's been selling media for 10 years, somebody who builds amazing proposals is going to say, that's micromanagement. Why am I being expected to do this? We've never had to do this before. This is robbing me of 2 hours that I could be spending on the prop. Really good example for sales team adoption and the approach that had to be taken 3 times in a row to get that embedded into the team as something that was a standard practice that they were happy and comfortable doing. So there's really kind of 4 things that you want to talk about when it comes to sales team adoption. And I've kind of headed these things just as like a quick high level. Number 1 is think reduction first. Number 2 is co-create. Number 3 is about over-the-top operationalization. And then number 4 is about PRing the hell out of it. So let's go to the first one. Think reduction first. Any new initiative, any new process, any new product, any new way of working is likely going to be layered on top of an already full plate with a sales team that are selling in the modern era. Okay, on any given day, most sellers are multitasking across a number of issues, be it strategic, operational, around revenue, around pipeline, around process, product, around mentoring and guiding their team. There's a lot going on. There is a lot that we are demanding out of these people. really think about what you can do to remove something from that plate in order for this new initiative, process, or policy to take its place. Okay, so my philosophy has always been, if you want to implement a new process, what 2 processes can you remove first? And this is really about practicality more than anything. If I'm asking a team to double the meetings they do a week, so if they're doing 4 a week and I'm asking them to do 8, the first thing that they're going to say to me is, we don't have the time to get out to market that much. You have to think about this practically and go, is that a genuine barrier to the team getting out and doing the activity? If so, what are those bottlenecks and how do I look to reduce, remove, or eliminate those completely so that the team have the ability and the capacity to go and do those additional 4 meetings a week? There's the practical side of it, okay? But there's also the political side of it, which is building political capital with your team. Doing something like this is very much about acknowledging and recognizing the demands and the pressure that's put on them, and basically saying something to the effect of, listen, team, I understand that this is something that is going to be difficult to integrate into your existing week and workflows and workloads, because it takes time, and it's going to take time for us to build a bit of muscle memory and to be familiar and comfortable. In order to ensure that we can do this to the quality that is required, what I would recommend is that we can stop doing these 3 reports and this weekly meeting. That's going to effectively give you back anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours a week. My request is that you redeploy that time into this. Okay, that's a much easier way to sell something to a sales team than it is to go in and just demand that they comply with your request and figure out how to make it squeeze into their additional work week. And I think, sometimes you do have to do some stuff that stings. I can remember in my last role, there was a really, really valuable weekly report that the sales team used to all do. It probably took every rep about 30 minutes to complete it, but it was incredibly valuable in terms of having insight, capturing good market intel, and it really streamlined my reporting process up to the leaders. That report was something that was a bit of a sacrificial lamb that I ended up removing, because I wanted to give the team that 30 minutes back each week to do something else. And funnily enough, a number of the team came to me and actually said, look, we actually want to continue doing this report. We feel like it's incredibly valuable. That's fine if you want to do that. If you think you get utility from it, continue to do it. But understand that that's how important this other initiative is to me in the hierarchy. The trade-off has to exist. It's more important that you spend 30 minutes a week focused on this new initiative than 30 minutes filling out this report. However valuable that is, it's not as valuable as this other thing. So sales team adoption, number 1, think reduction first. What can you remove to give them the capacity, but also to have that political capital, and also from a messaging point of view, to show just how critical it is that you nail this new initiative. Number 2 is this idea of co-creation, right? So much of what happens in media companies is this top-down approach. Head office have delivered us a new piece of collateral. Somebody in product has delivered us a new way of doing things, a new way of selling things. There's a new CRM coming in that the finance and procurement team are wanting to embed. Very often the sales team are something of, the reactionary participant in this, as opposed to the initiator or the instigator of this stuff. So very often you're going to find that opposition is just naturally there because they don't feel they've got control. They don't feel there was any consultation. They might feel like there's some hidden challenges here that a decision hasn't really taken into consideration when one of these things was being implemented. As much as possible, you need to create a scenario where they can at least work with you to co-create and collaborate on how it is that you're going to deal with that and how you're going to embed this new process, product, policy, etc. This new initiative, if you will. So think about it like this. Typically a way a sales leader will go and try to get sales team adoption is they'll be like the hype person for the new thing. Hey, we've got this amazing new product. Let's make sure we get it out to market. It's going to be really exciting for our clients. I would really love to see you all go out and take it out to everybody. Great. Sure. Great messaging. That's really difficult to see anybody getting inspired to go out of their way to apply discretionary effort to really making that a focus if all you've got is the sales leader kind of being the hype person for it. What would be more effective is to actually pull the team in and throw the challenge to them, invert that. What is the problem? How can you guys come back to me and back to the rest of the team with a recommendation on how we're going to solve it? How are we going to get to 8 meetings a week, guys? If we can only do 4, I need you to really think deeply on this, and I need you, as the seniors on the floor and as the thought leaders and as the people the team look up to, I need you to go away and come back to me with a recommendation on how we're going to get the team to 8 meetings a week. And then I want you to present back to your peers a recommendation for how we're going to do that and why it's important and what we're going to get as an outcome of that. The next thing is, thinking about something like, here's a piece of research the team aren't really buying into. Something as simple as sitting the team down and saying, listen, I can sense a little bit of frustration or reluctance to take this research out to market and present it as is. The company spent a lot of money on it. I need your help. I need you to come back to me with a plan and recommendation for how do we maximize the value of this research? How do we tailor it and customize it to our market and our clients? And what else can we do to embed this thinking into the marketplace beyond just taking a deck out and presenting it to our customers? Can I leave that with you for a week to come back and present back to me before we then roll that out to the team? That is going to be way more powerful than you trying to kind of problem solve or coach a resistant salesperson around some of the challenges that they're having taking it out. And maybe it's something as simple as, hey, there's this little thing we need to do. It's easily forgotten. It's very easy to not do it, but it's important to the business, and we're all going to get slapped on the wrist if we don't do it. What's the best way to embed this as standard practice? How do we guarantee that every week this thing is going to happen and it's going to become an automatic thing so that I don't have to hassle you and you don't have to constantly have this thing looming over your head? So co-creation is really important. I think so often as a sales leader, your tendency is to go into fix-it mode, or it's to go into a situation where you think you really need to sell something to the team and get them to embrace it. Really try to think about it the other way. Empower your team that are frontline in market, that are connected to your customers, that are the advocates for their customers internally. Throw the challenge to them. Give them the directive that, they have to go away and work up a plan and recommend it back to you. And if it's approved, they get to have the social currency of rolling it out to their team and being seen as a thought leader, but they're also accountable for ensuring that it is embedded into the team and that it actually is executed properly. So co-creation is very powerful. Number 3, over-the-top operationalization. So what that means is the mistake I see a lot of sales leaders make, myself included, is thinking that just putting this message into an email and maybe mentioning it in a sales meeting is enough to embed it as a standard behavior and expectation on the team. There's a great sales trainer out of the US called Mike Manzi, and he uses this analogy of if you want your team, very, very crazy analogy, if you want your team to wear blue jeans on a Friday, you don't send an email saying, hey, on Friday, wear blue jeans, and then mention it again in the sales meeting on a Wednesday and expect that the team are going to arrive on Friday wearing blue jeans. That's not the way the world works. It's not the way sales teams work. People might be unclear on the expectation. People might forget. People might think that it's something that they can volunteer to participate in. People might be unclear on what blue jeans means. I know that sounds crazy, but people might literally think that the dress code is being breached with the jeans that they want to wear, so they go for the safe option. There's a whole raft of things that happen when you do loose messaging and you don't communicate in a way that is actually embedded in as more of an operationalized communication plan. And so what I mean by that is we're wearing blue jeans on Friday. You might put that into a weekly whip agenda with your team 3 weeks before the Friday. Hey, just a reminder, in 2 weeks' time, it's the Blue Jeans Friday. Are you wearing your blue jeans? Do you have your blue jeans? Would you like a link to some blue jeans? Would you like us to maybe show you some different examples of the blue jeans that other people are wearing? How do we gamify this? Hey, everybody who comes in and wears their blue jeans gets a prize or gets to leave an hour early for the day or something like that. This is the kind of stuff you need to be thinking about. How do we absolutely guarantee that this is so embedded into everybody's mind and they are so crystal clear on the expectation and they have the tools and support and collateral and training and frequently asked questions one-pager and playbooks and content hubs and product or process or policy champions There's so much available to them, and it is so proactively embedded into their weekly rhythm that it's unavoidable that they would be clear on the expectation, the process, the policy, and have the resources there to clarify if they need it. 90% of sales team adoption is about going that extra step to furnish the team with the tools and support so that they can really clearly understand things. Now, a lot of people say to me, they're adults, they're not children, we need to not treat them like they're stupid. No one is suggesting that people are stupid. What I'm suggesting is that so much messaging goes to a sales team. If you're a frontline seller, you're getting anywhere from 60 to 70 to 150 emails a day. I hate to say it, half of those are probably internally from your own company about a whole bunch of different updates and products and policies and ways of working and initiatives and things going on. So it's not about just delivering the message. It's about making sure that there is an operational plan to embed this into the business as a standard practice. And so I'll give you an example. This process or this policy around, all proposals over $20,000 must be sent to an email group 2 hours before deadline. That's easily forgotten if a rep is rushing to get a proposal done before deadline and it's a short brief. That's easily missed and explained away if somebody just doesn't want to send it and doesn't want to comply with the policy. That's easily sort of sent late, in which case you don't have time to actually action the feedback. The rep's already sent the proposal out the door and there's been critical errors in it, or there's been some cosmetic changes that could have been made to optimize the outcome of that. It's a constant thing that you have to kind of continually reinforce. And it leads me to my final point, which is this whole idea of PR the hell out of it, right? So it's not about just having the operational plan, it's about flipping it in and running a campaign. So the 20K and over email process, my job was to run that as if I was running that process for the next president. The campaign that I had to put behind that. So, the first step of that might actually be not just going, hey, we're implementing this policy. It might be going, hey, I just need to make everybody aware of an observation that I've made out in market. We're getting consistent feedback that the quality of our proposals is not as good as that of our competitors. We're hearing that cosmetically they don't look as good. We're hearing that the structure is difficult to navigate. And one of the other things I'm hearing, which is a bit alarming, is that really, depending on who the brief goes to, there's going to be a completely different type of proposal coming out the door. So there's no consistency going out to market, guys. Are you aware of this? Is this similar to the feedback you're getting? Do we see the benefit of us drastically improving the quality of our proposals? As a collective team, if we really put the effort and energy into making our proposals best in market, what kind of impact do we feel that would have on our win rates? What kind of impact do we think that would have on our close, not only our close rates, but also like our retention? Do we think it would be a little bit easier to sell some of these complex solutions if our proposals really did a good job of selling them? Let's quantify this. What do we think is the benefit of doing this? What's the upside of putting some focus on this? Something like that is, you're almost arousing a bit of interest or a bit of awareness of an issue maybe the team don't have. Then it might be a case of going, hey, I want to bring a small project group in. Guys, per my conversation last week around some of the concerns I have around the quality of our proposals, there is a bit of a process solution here, but it's also an adaptive solution. One of the things that I think we need to do is create some level of protection, almost like a last line of defense for our proposals before they go out the door. We need some form of quality checking process where maybe 2 hours before we're due to present, we sit down, we maybe rehearse the proposal, we present the deck back, or failing that, we send, the smaller decks, anything over 20K, we send that to an email group, and either myself or a line manager will be responsible and accountable for just making sure that that's at the market standard we've all agreed to. Can I entrust you guys to go away and just have a think about how that could actually be rolled out to the team and the best way to manage that process so that everybody understands why we're doing it and buys into it? Okay, then it might be that we bring that to everyone's attention in the weekly sales meeting. Hey, there's a new 20K and over prop process. We've spoken to a few of you in the team, and this has been a recommendation for how we might roll this out. Let's have a conversation in the sales team meeting next week about how that plays out. But please understand, guys, the benefit of this is going to be immense if we get it right. There might be an email that follows that up. There might be a directive to your sales leaders or to your reps. in the next 2 weeks of one-on-one meetings, you've got to start talking about that email cross-checking process that we're about to put in place, the benefits of it. Start looking at your proposals over the next 2 weeks and just really question, is this at a standard that you'd be happy sending to the sales director? And would you endorse this, as something that you think would be getting approved to go out? Or do you think that you'd be getting a little bit of feedback around some changes? Like, really try your best to spend this grace period getting your product as good as it can possibly be, because by X date, this is going to be a new process. Maybe then it's about the process is live, just showcasing some great examples of best practice. Hey, X rep in the team used the 20K and over process. It looked fantastic. And, there was one critical thing missing, which was we decided to include this insight and this piece of research. Over to you, rep. Tell us what the feedback was from the client around that proposal. Sharing some examples of how the process has actually worked, how it has helped. Doing it almost as a prop of the week. The best prop that comes to the 20K and over email gets to be the prop of the week in the meeting, and that rep gets to present it to the team and potentially get some sort of a reward and incentive. Believe it or not, a prop of the week is actually a really, really great way to flip this from being, a process that is about checking people's work into a gamified competition that creates a little bit of, healthy rivalry in the team. How do I get my prop to be seen as the best in the team? How do we create some level of shared accountability around what we as a team put to market with our proposals? How do I win that award? How do I get to present my work to my peers? And conversely, how do I now get to showcase to the rest of the team what the minimum acceptable standard of a prop looks like? It's a really, really long-term kind of plan here for something like this. But you can see how it has to be kind of deployed in a way that is very diplomatic, it's very considerate, it's strategic, but it's also very much, process-driven, but it's also very adaptive, behaviorally driven, psychologically driven. This kind of stuff is nuanced, right? For you, if you just go, it's 20K and over, do it, or you're going to get reprimanded. And if that works for you, keep doing what you do, right? As long as the sales team aren't sitting there, quietly undermining you, or aren't adhering to the process, or adhering to it under duress, but are completely miserable doing it, you've got to be aware of that. But for me, this is the approach that I think, particularly going in now around the world, where we're coming in as effectively an outside consultancy or an outside business and having to work with an existing sales team to embrace a completely new philosophy, a completely new way of working. These are the principles I embed in any team that I come into to work, which is give value, think of it from the perspective of that salesperson, really think about it in the sense that you are one of about 75 other things that are probably commanding their attention and their time. And you have to ensure that whatever you do is really considerate of that, and that you understand that it's about playing a longer term game to get the outcome you want. You're going to get a better outcome if you follow these principles. So just a quick rundown. First and foremost, if you want a sales team to adopt something, be it increasing your KPIs from 4 meetings a week to 8, taking a piece of research out to every client in the market that they don't necessarily love, learning a new system for booking your material that's really clunky and is going to take a bit of time, or something as simple as all proposals over 20K must be sent to an email group 2 hours before deadline, and approval to send them out. Think about these 4 principles. Number 1, think reduction first. What can I take off their plate in order to make this new thing I'm putting on their plate more palatable and more easily executed? How do I sell the benefit of, I need you to do this thing, but in return for your compliance and cooperation, I'm going to take this other thing off you. That is the easiest way to start here to ensure that you don't meet resistance in the implementation. Number 2 is around co-creation. Don't think you have to come up with all the solutions yourself. Don't think you have to sell it. Think about it that they have to sell it back to you. Nothing will get an eager sales rep more excited than you asking them to go away and recommend an initiative or a plan back to you for the team. It's an incredibly exciting thing for a lot of particularly career-driven reps who might aspire to leadership. That type of project is something that creates a lot of joy and fulfillment in their role. It's also one of the best ways to get the sales team to actually adopt a new process, is to have them actually co-create it with you. And, the way I've always set this up is you say the what you want, but you work with them on the how. This is what we need to achieve. Let's work together to figure out the best way how we can do that. Number 3, over the top, operationalization. Give your team the tools, the support, the collateral, the training, the FAQs, the playbooks, the content hubs, the product champions. Give them no excuse to suggest they don't know what the process is, they don't have the tools, they don't have the support, and they're unclear on what it is that's expected of them. Do it 150% more than you think is necessary, and I think you'll still be surprised that might fall short. And then number 4 is about PRing the hell of it. So think of it as though you've done all this heavy lifting to actually get the process, the initiative, the policy to get it up. Now your job is to continue to sell the benefits of continuing to adhere to it and continuing to do it well. Lots of great initiatives die because the last part isn't done. You could execute, you could roll out, but it's actually making sure that you continue to champion it, continue to keep the energy and enthusiasm for it high, and so the best way to do that is just to find a way to always reinforce the benefits of it in your weekly stand-ups, in your emails, in your one-on-ones, when it's showcasing best practice, if it's awarding the sales team, align the team's incentives to them doing a good job of this thing and just PR the hell out of it. I guess the thing here too is a quick wrap up. For me, this is really what I call kind of a war of attrition, right? If you want a sales team to embrace and adopt a new initiative, a new policy, a new process, new product, I really need like a short word for all of that stuff. If you want sales team adoption, you have to understand that it's nuanced. It takes a hell of a lot longer than you might expect. And there's a very strategic way that you have to approach that in order to get that adoption. The example I always use is that we created a great sales playbook in my last role. It took 2 weeks to build the document. It took a year to get it embedded into the team. Okay, so don't underestimate how long these things take, right? But it's a war of attrition. It isn't about sitting there and just mandating it gets done and then never revisiting it. It's about strategically looking at it as a long-term exercise and making sure that there are multiple steps and stages you work through and not being afraid to kind of keep going back and revisiting. If you have a few false starts, don't get discouraged. You've got to kind of keep pounding away at it in order to make sure that something like this gets up. So that is it from me. Obviously a bit of a rapid fire one this week. I am going to just ask you kindly again, as always, don't bother liking, don't bother subscribing, don't bother leaving a rating. But if you're getting value out of this podcast, please just share it with a friend, send it as a text message, raise it in your sales team meeting. Just think of one person in your life who might benefit from hearing some of these episodes. Pass this on. You'd be doing me the greatest favor. So thank you. And I look forward to doing the next episode when I am back in Brisbane in about 3 weeks' time.